We begin in the U.S. and, as expected, President Joe Biden has won the Democratic primary in South Carolina by a landslide. Still, observers are keeping a close watch on the turnout at this election. Biden's approval ratings are low at the moment, but this vote will be a key test of support, especially among black voters, as he faces a re-election battle with his likely challenger, Donald Trump. Here's Biden speaking earlier at a campaign stop in his home state, Delaware.
This is not just a campaign. This is more of a mission. We cannot lose this campaign for the good of the country. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. It's not about me. It goes well beyond me. It goes about the country. And I think everybody knows it.
For more, I'm joined by Jason Campidonia, Los Angeles Bureau Chief of NBC News Radio. Welcome to the program, Jason. So, a landslide for Biden in South Carolina. What will this do for his campaign?
Well, it's going to give it a shot in the arm. It really is going to boost a lot of the campaign maneuverability throughout the rest of the contest here. It's going to give him some numbers that he can tout, especially being in South Carolina, a much more diverse population there than Iowa, which is much more white, much more affluent than the South Carolina demographic. So he'll be able to take those numbers and use them throughout the country as the primaries start ticking off and ticking along. He's actually in Los Angeles this weekend going to a few fundraisers to boost, those numbers as well. So it really is a massive win for the Biden administration today. And it really is a boost for the Democratic Party, because now that they're starting to see Biden actually win some actual contests, this will give them much more direction in the long run.
And speaking of demographics, the primary is also being touted as a litmus test with black voters, one of those groups. So how would you rate Biden's performance there?
So the election officials there were hoping to see 150,000 people show up to vote today. And if that happens, they would call that a success. Black, white, brown, it doesn't really matter, just as long as 150,000 people show up. If a majority of those people happen to be black voters that show up to the polls and vote, the Biden administration, I believe, will then use those numbers across the country and say, then you can tout, you can hang the sandwich board outside Biden's chest and say, look how popular I am with black voters like you in such city or such and such state. In South Carolina, they really believe in me. You should too. It really is a marketing standpoint for the Biden administration, because right now, most people believe that it's going to be a Biden-Trump election when it comes down to it in November. So it really will just kind of help Biden boost his diversity plan and the Democratic vision of an all-inclusive voting experience.
And as he continues that race, what are the biggest hurdles in domestic policy that President Biden would have to cross?
So the biggest domestically, I would say, is the green energy that the Democrats continue to tout as something that they're fighting for, something that they're pushing, right? So it's like all of this green energy, all of this renewable energy conversation is happening, but nothing's being done. And domestically, I think that's going to look bad on the party, because in order to get a lot of these projects completed, they have to raise taxes. People don't like that. Also, internationally, I think his foreign policy is really going to be put to the test, especially with military action, U.S. military action in Iran and in the Middle East, the war in the Middle East, and how that continues to drag on. Also, the war in Ukraine, how that continues to drag on. What are the decisions that are going to be made to either get the United States soldiers home, or are we going to go into war? We can't just have our toe in the middle of this. We're either in or we're out. So I think there are some major hurdles there that I'm sure that there are rooms full of people that are much smarter than you and I trying to make decisions right now.
Okay. Great to have your perspective, Jason Campidonia, Los Angeles Bureau Chief for NBC News Radio. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So will we be looking at a repeat of 2020 at the presidential elections later this year? And how would Joe Biden fare this time around against Donald Trump? DW's Janelle Dumalaon takes a look at the recent highs and lows of Biden's leadership and speculates on what tools the Republicans might use to try to take him down.
There's a word that's appeared to have dropped out of President Joe Biden's speeches, something he used to say all the time.
Bidenomics is just another way of saying the American dream.
Bidenomics, the idea that Biden steadied an economy thrown off balance by the pandemic and bet big on the future with an ambitious infrastructure program. But it's so far gained little traction with voters. One just released poll shows that less than 40% of surveyed voters approve of the president's economic record and of his overall performance. And those are just some of the national issues, but some of his foreign policy choices are threatening his standing at home. His unwavering support of Israel's war against Hamas and the more than 27,000 Palestinians killed in the campaign is hurting his image, especially among young voters, and providing ammunition to his political enemies.
But what Donald Trump will try to do is to try to create a narrative that Joe Biden is out of touch and doesn't understand the complexities of the Middle East situation and is therefore incapable of serving as commander-in-chief.
And his biggest diplomatic achievement, leading international support for Ukraine's defense against Russia, has hit a wall. House Republican lawmakers have blocked efforts to get fresh funding for Kyiv, demanding stricter controls for immigration via the U.S. southern border, but have thus far rejected any deal. For his part, Biden is hoping to use the lack of cooperation from Republicans as a campaign point, saying that nothing can get done here or abroad if voters don't vote Democrat.
You'll have Joe Biden out there saying, we have a do-nothing Congress. I tried to get everything I could out of them. Send me back, but send me back with some Democrats so I can get some things done.
But the heart of his pitch to the American people is a reminder of the perils associated with bringing Donald Trump back to the White House.
Donald Trump's campaign is about him, not America, not you. Donald Trump's campaign is obsessed with the past, not the future. He's willing to sacrifice our democracy, put himself in power. Our campaign is different.
The million-dollar question is whether that message will resonate. Joe Biden has several more months in which anything can happen to make his case to voters. Thus far, they haven't been easy to convince.